What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to talk about the gait cycle, and how it relates to movements in the gym. The gait cycle is essentially what happens when we move and locomote throughout space. Essentially, like something right now, I'm not moving, so I'm not going through any gait cycles. However, if I'm in something such as the bottom position of a lunge, this front foot is in a specific type of gait. The back foot is in a different phase of gait. So in reality, there are a lot of different ways we can locomote. And if we kind of categorize and understand exactly what's going on, we can begin to understand some of the nuances that come along with what happens during the gait cycle during certain movements in the gym. So for the lunge, for example, this also happens quite often in single leg RDLs, hip hinges. There's also a thought process that during bilateral movements, the gait cycle is experienced by both sides. So if I'm doing a squat, I have a mid-stance position for both feet. So another thought process here is when I am doing sprinting drills and the different ways we can teach and learn these drills, there are more rapid successions of the gait cycle for obvious reasons because it's faster. So let's start from the beginning. We're going to go through some really easy understandings of what the gait cycle is. There's different positions that are more important. I don't want to say more important. There are positions that and stances that might be more imperative for you to understand because during many movements in the gym for either novices or even expert or elite, I don't want to say athletes, but individuals in the gym that are used to these kind of movements, it would be more imperative to hold this thing called mid stance. So when we walk through, literally, when we're walking, I'm going from point A, I'm going to go to point B. I'm taking a step, and then it's going to set me up for the next step. So I have this rocking position where I have my heel down. I'm going to go through some sort of supinated position, and then I'm rolling into pronation on this left foot. And then as I take my next step, mid stance, and then I'm going to push off this foot for early contact on this other foot. Now this leg is going through a swing phase because now it's going to keep on propelling during motion. And then this is going to go through the same phases: supination, pronation, mid stance, so on and so forth. With this being said, now I have an understanding that when I go through these phases of gait, I have a better understanding of what happens during lunges, what happens during single leg RDLs. Because if we cannot hold these positions of the foot, positions of the arch during these gym-related movements, then it's going to be a little more difficult for us to maintain authentic motion within our lower half, for example, because if we can't hold positions in our lower half, how much more are we going to hold positions for the rest of our body? Otherwise, we'd be free-falling through space, and that's another topic for another time. So let me go through those motions in the next little segment here. All right, so we went over some of the importance of mid-stance position in a lunge. In reality, mid-stance allows for transition to occur. Transition of what? Well, transition of locomotion, of movement. And if we don't have mid-stance, we're going to be maybe not authentically going through different muscles, different joint positions in order to accelerate and go forwards. And this might come at the cost of some individuals walking like this. The foot is out this way, and then I'm going to lead using this part of my body and then going this way. So I feel like I'm moving actually through the lumbopelvic region to go this way. So in reality, if I'm an individual and I happen to be swinging out like this, perhaps there's a sequelae, a sequence of muscles, a chain of muscles that are being utilized incorrectly because now I'm walking through life like this. And then I might be using some different muscle groups that may or may not be helping me, right? I might have some type of injury, some type of pre-existing thing that I might need to use in order to get there. But before I go into some tangent, let's go into the mid-stance position in some other exercises, such as the one-leg RDL. In the one leg RDL, this is probably one of the harder exercises out there in any common gym setting. Reason being is the center of pressure and center of balance is very much so challenged. So what I mean by this is if I have my feet like this, and if I can imagine there's two circles around each foot, right? The circles are going to be kind of centered in the middle of this region, right? Basically where my whole body stands. If I go farther out away from each other, the region is even further. If I go here, the region is a lot smaller. Now, even in this position, I feel okay. But when I go here, you're going to start to see my body go left and right and weave back and forth. So, a lot of individuals in the gym might often say, my balance is bad, I need to work on my balance, or they might just say, I'm not good at this. And then the whole chain of events and sequence of emotional things come up because of pain, injuries, or things that may or may not have happened in the gym that cause them to have this type of lack of balance. And that's another topic altogether. But in the context of center of balance, I want to go over what happens in the single leg RDL. So in the mid stance position, I'm going to show you from a couple different angles. I'm going to use this right leg as the main stabilizing leg. So if I get this mid stance position, I'm going to be standing like this. This is maybe the first fifth of the movement. And then as I go through this single leg RDL motion, my body is essentially going to be pushing in this direction, all right? Pushing, leaning, etc. What is the definition of a single leg RDL? So many different variations, right? There's some say people do this when you do a single leg RDL. Some people say do this. There's so many different definitions is what I'm coming from. So I like to be as general as possible while still being very specific. In the single leg RDL, you're essentially going to be allowing the femur to move within the acetabulum of the hip, while the acetabulum is moving over the femur, excuse me. So, with this being said, if we can understand that the acetabulum has to move over the femur in order for this definition of a single leg hip hinge or single leg RDL to take place, what happens with the torso? So if I am moving in this direction, does this mean my torso is moving up? Am I moving over? Am I rounding over like this? And I fell over on that one. But do you see where I'm coming from? There are so many different variations here to account for. What I'm going to comment on is there are a lot of different definitions. I'm not going to say one is right or wrong. I will comment that at some point the acetabulum will need to move over the femur while our body and our torso and our head position is vastly different than when we first started. Meaning, I started like this. I'm upright. My eyes are looking this way. My chest is looking this way. Something different, meaning I need to be here. So now my head's in a different position. My chest is in a different position. My acetabulum is over my femur. And I'm in a mid-stance position. I'm not rolling this way because now I'm falling. And just by losing that arch position, we are also losing the integrity of the rest of our body because one little piece can be pulled out and the rest of the, I guess you could say, puzzle or tree can fall. So there are a lot of things that we can use from this, all right, this little example. This mid-stance position is supported, again, just to reiterate, heel contact, supination, or the fifth metatarsal touching, and then pronation. And then from here, I'm going to make sure that the medial malleolus does not roll inwards like this. I'll show you from this angle. This is mid-stance position. Not going to roll in. Immediately I get knee cave. So I'm holding this position. And even, I could probably hold this for about 5 minutes if I really, really, really wanted to. And I have to hold the mid-stance position. Whoa, see? Lost it. Because I was trying to brag about how long I could hold it. I need to hold the mid-stance position while doing the single leg RDL. So it's not wrong to fall, as long as we learn from that. So that's a good one right there. And essentially, if you're working with individuals, a lot of research has said giving actual results right after you do each repetition is not conducive to allowing them to learn. So something that I do as a coach, as a trainer, practitioner is I say do 5 reps and then tell me how you do. So you can allow some type of reflection instead of giving immediate feedback. So that's another topic as well. But hopefully that was informative for the single leg RDL.